Good afternoon, everybody. It is Marie here with the Skeinz Diaries. A little bit later than usual, I know. Sorry about that, but I've been working off-site this morning, and it's thought to change things up a little bit for us today. Episode 167 on this rather blustery 13th of June. I was actually going to set up in the other room, but literally in the last 15 to 20 minutes, the wind has descended here in the bay, and if you hear what sounds like a sort of a roaring or a jet engine, it's actually the wind outside. And if you've ever been to visit us in our store here, I mean, this is actually literally a giant warehouse, which we have a retail store in front. So I'm glad that it's just settled down a touch, but it's crazy. The weather is a bit bonkers for everybody, isn't it, at the minute? So welcome along. It's so nice that so many of you can join us for an afternoon session of the diaries. I've got a few things to talk about today. I saw that you loved the Marls, the suggestions that I had for the Marls last week. And I'm going to continue a little bit with that theme as well, because I've just seen another pattern. I jumped on Revelry actually, and I'd actually seen this pattern pop up in projects and people I follow both on Instagram and also in the Speakeasy. And I thought, oh, I do quite like that. I'm quite fond. And I thought that I'd highlight this pattern in the newsletter, and we'd talk a bit about it today, because there's a colour work pattern. And if you're looking for something with a bit of colour work, I think this actually's got some quite nice potential. More about that in a moment. The first thing I want to let you know is Yarnology is up and listed. So if you just pop Yarnology in the search bar, that'll be the easiest way to find it. But it is up and listed. They went up this morning. So we have got those there. We've got 29 copies of them. So do jump on and grab those. So they are there. So I've got that all done. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everyone here. Yes, so those are there and ready. Yippee. Claire's actually over at the mill at the minute, so she is going, and we have had a few bits and pieces pop in. I haven't done a restocks for ages, but there are a few bits and bobs just starting to sort of sneak through. Hopefully I'll have a more intensive restock list next week, which will be great. But we are starting to get some restock starting to happen, which is awesome. Progress on my sweater. I haven't bought it today. I've deliberately not bought it because I want to do a big reveal, because I'm getting there. I spent some time on it over the weekend. I am now have completely finished one side and one placket, and I've just started the other side, and then once I've done that, the pieces need to be blocked, then sewn together, and then the neckband needs to be applied. So we'll be working on that this week, which is awesome. I'm really excited about that. And it was nice, actually. I mentioned before about the instructions. I went back through. I didn't knit any of it last week, prior to the weekend, and the old noodle, she wasn't there. The noodle was the only thing the noodle was going to be dealing with last week was crochet blanket, if I'm brutally honest. So I need to put it down, because the instructions, whilst not difficult, it was one of those things that if your head's not in the game, you're going to make a mistake, and I really didn't feel like any frogging back. So I left it until the weekend. I got I got it sort of, some quiet time, and I ended up not really mapping it out in the end. By the time I realized what was going on with the instruction, I sort of started it, and it was like, oh, okay, you've actually written a hell of a lot of instruction for what is something that is exceptionally straightforward. And I can see why she's had to do that. But once I got into it, it was as good as gold. So, Megan, you're asking, sewing, after sewing, would you block or steam it again? I'll possibly just steam it again, Megan. I'm a bit torn. Quite often I will steam the pieces, sew, then block. And I may do this. I might actually steam them first, see how they look. But I just am pretty certain I am going to have to wet block them just because it's a woolen spun, the nature of the woolen spun. And also how the seams are designed with the raglan is I have a selvage that I have been doing on both the raglan on the body and on the sleeve, which is to, when it's sewn together, it actually leaves an exposed seam. So the second stitch in is actually going to be my stitch that I'm mattress stitching into as part of that selvage. So I need to have those edges nice and crisp so I can do that. So I'll do a couple of pieces and see how they look. If they're nice and crisp, then I will be good. So that's what I think I'll do. Well, that's the plan, at least at this. You know what I'm like. It changes. Yes, sorry, Maureen. Yes, I am referring to my husband's jumper, which is the Limerick Henley by Marianne Benedetto. So I'm nearly done. So that's in Kelly & Co. in Ramore. So fingers crossed, depending on how the week travels, I may actually have it completed to show you on Thursday as the week, or this time next week, if depending on how things go. So it's the plan. That's the plan, Stan, at this stage. And what is the sweater I'm wearing today? This is Goldwing by Jennifer Steingass, and I've worn this very, very deliberately today. One of the things I have been doing over the last week to 10 days is I have been doing some reblocking of a number of my knits. I do it every year, this time of year, as it's gets time to dust these suckers off and wear them. And every year I have a rotation. So itchy nose. Every time I have a rotation where I will wear, will just freshen and reblock something. And I usually do 2 or 3 pieces every year. So not every sweater gets washed every year. Some sweaters only get washed once every 4 or 5 years. So I had some that needed a bit of deep, and I do my de-pilling TLC thing, and I did that not this weekend, gone the weekend before, the long weekend. So I did that for a number of them. So I had a whole heap. I did both my oatmeals, got done. In fact, I wore my green oatmeal yesterday, and it's so comfy because it was just yesterday, and it was lovely. I gave. The pink oatmeal needed a bit of a stretch. It had got the previous block. It had gotten quite firm, and it hadn't felted. It just needed it. So that's now tickety boo. What else did I do? Oh, the black vest I had on the other day. I hadn't done that for eons, so that got a wee freshen up. And I did the mending on my blue hybrid vest as well. So that was all good. This has never been wet blocked. It was only ever steamed. And it was just, and the edges were starting to get a bit, they were rolling back and not doing what I wanted them to do. So I thought, right, I will give this wet block. Hadn't done it. The yarns, this is a County, this yarn here, with Southlander oatmeal. And this just goes to show this happens to all of us, even those of us that know what we're doing, just to prove to you that we're all human. Can you see that? The colour ran. Just the red, nothing else, just the red, because as you can see, these colours are still nice and crisp here. But the red on the sleeve here, seeped, and I did everything. I really honestly don't know why, and it hasn't happened with any of the other colors or anywhere else. Now, to be fair, red is a problem child. Even we've had problems with red. This yarn will be probably a spray yarn. Yes, so the red wasn't completely color fast. All the others colors are, but not the red. So I I couldn't believe it when it came out. I was like, you've got to be joking me. Insert very colourful 4-letter words. And then I suddenly thought, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. I really am not. I love this. I love it so much. And I thought, well, here we go. That just shows that it just happens. I did have actually, there was a little bit on the body as well. Can't quite see it as much there because I have actually managed, I re-soaked those parts and just really gave them a huge big flush. with water, and I managed to actually get quite a bit out on those bits that are on the body. But on the arms, I thought, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. I really, here is fine. All up here is no worries whatsoever. And even in here, where there's red and orange, great. It's just in this portion here. So there you go. I really honestly don't know what it is, because I didn't change anything. The water temperature was barely tepid. To be fair, it was soaking for a reasonable length of time because I wanted to give it a proper block, but there you go. It's what you get, really, don't you? So it just shows you it happens to all of us. But as I said, I'm not going to worry. And actually, after actually having a wet block, it feels great. So hot or cold water? No, it was serious. It was cold water or warm. It was not even barely warm, Kathy. So if I was to stick a temperature probe in it, it wouldn't have even been 30 degrees. So I know. No. I really don't know. That's okay. I'm honestly not worried about it. And as I may find when I go to do this again, it may actually ease out the next time round. So I'm not going to worry. I really am not going to worry. But yeah, so there you go. But the nice thing is it's nice to have it on, and I need it today because the weather here, honestly, it was just howling then again now. I don't know whether you guys can hear it or not, but it is loud out there. So that's what happened with the gold one. Yvonne saying the Knicks bled in the Flindra. Yeah, I know. It is, and we try so hard. We try really, really hard not to have things run because obviously it's not fun for anybody, but it just shows you it happens. But the good news is, so ironically today, I'm wanting to talk to you about another colourwork project. And it's funny because this project that I'm wanting to talk about was one that I had, as I mentioned before, had seen crop up in Speakeasy and a few others, and I thought, oh, actually, I quite like that. And as Ethan often says, it is the outline patterns that you look for. And what I'm talking about is this. But this is called the Easy V Sweater by Caitlin Hunter. And it is something that is a little different to what she has done previously. And I liked it. I really liked it. I have to admit, I do quite like this big, wide V-neck at the top. I mean, you guys know that I'm partial to that because obviously it's very similar to what was in Chaika, with that big, relaxed V. And I like it because all the attention is drawn to this area here. And it just, like, for me personally, anything that draws your eye up to your neckline here versus sort of your bottom line down there is always going to be a good thing. So I know as soon as I saw it, I kind of thought, okay, she's using a variety of different yarns. The color work doesn't necessarily have to be crisp. She's deliberately gone and done it so you're only ever working with 2 colors at a time. So from a color work perspective, that is really nice and quite straightforward. It's very, very easy if you're only working with 2 colors at a time, and a lovely big wide yoke like this. This is easy peasy lemon squeezy. So if you haven't done color work before, this is the sort of color work project that you want to do. The gold wing here that I'm wearing, exactly the same. Only ever working with 2 colors at any given time. It really does make your life quite easy. And like the Naniltrick Swancho, which I made by Caitlin, she's used these geometric shapes. So she hasn't gone, whereas Steingas uses these finer, more filigree type color works and shapes. Caitlin tends to go to these more blocky shapes, and I think for her, I mean, she's from Alaska. I mean, and I think she's moved back to Alaska now. So this is she probably draws a lot of influence from the landscape around her and the knitting traditions in the area where she's from. And I have to say, I really like it. I like those sort of nice solid shapes. And the neat thing about these solid shapes is that it looks like there's more work there, but it's actually the yarn changing within those blocks as well. If I go in a little bit closer, you can see that these are actually two shapes there, or two different yarn colors. So that's what the color changes are. So it is surprisingly easy to do. Now, the one thing I do not like are these sleeves. I don't know about anybody else, but those sleeves would do my freaking head in, people. They would do my head in. So if I were me, and she says in the pattern notes that you have the option of repeating the motif here at the sleeve or omitting it completely. If this were me, personally, and looking at these sleeves, these are a balloon sleeve, so I'm doubting there's a lot of shaping going on in these sleeves. I would be inclined to do the sleeve down to about here, where she's looking at starting the color work, and then I would be going straight in and doing a long rib to length desired, and then that way you've got a nice ballooning until about essentially until about sort of mid-arc there, and then a nice long piece of rib. That's me, that's how that's what I would be inclined to do. These big balloony, this long pasture, no, that would piss me off, quite frankly. And I do this all the time. I am forever. I know some people, they love the big long sleeve. I did it with this one. If I'm brutally honest with you, I mean, the sleeve that was designed for this was much longer than what it is now. In fact, I probably truncated the sleeve by a good 5 to 7 centimeters. Yeah, Joanne's saying I would knit a shape sleeve. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what you would do, Joanne? I mean, that's just it. There's no reason why you couldn't put a fitted sleeve in there. And in the Nanil chick, actually, she had, because obviously the arm popped out, your arm popped out, it started from your elbow. And then she just had a ribbing. To be honest with you, just doing that ballooning, even to the elbow, and then just doing a rib all the way down to cuff would even look really, really nice, and would actually help streamline the arms. To be fair, I think she's done this. I think this, the reason she's gone for this big blousey, that shows you, see, look how much longer those are. The reason she's done this big blousey sleeve is she's wanting to design something, it's that whole sort of slouchy, throw it over the top of the linen dress sort of look. And that's cool, that's a thing, but yeah, in real people land, no, it's Barbara, coffee knockover sleeves, totally. I mean, I cook a lot, so, and of course I'm not, well, even if you're an apron wearer, you'd put an apron on, but if you had sleeves like that, mine would be covered in, they'd be a mess. Absolute mess. So that's, if I have a criticism of this project, that's what the criticism is. But you know what? It's not the biggest criticism in the world, is it really? It's, there are worse things. So looking at this, I thought to myself, okay, what sort of combinations can we use? Because she has used, hold on, let's see what she's used. She has used Spin Cycle. Oh, yes, we all have the budget for that, don't we not? Maybe if it were Ethan. And Ritual Dyes Elder. Now, the reality of it is that is something not easily available here. A beautiful yarn. It's 100% Rambouillet. And then, obviously, the Spin Cycle. Now, to be honest with you, we... let's put that one up. That's a nice one to have up. There we go. We'll do that one. Right. To be honest with you, I think Southlander is, very, very similar to these and easily substitutionable when we're wanting to substitute. So I thought, well, the Marls with the colour changing through the yoke would actually be a really great substitute for this. They really, really would. So I went and grabbed some of the Marls. Well, I grabbed all of them, actually, because I can. And I grabbed some Southlanders to go with them. And actually, I didn't grab the one that I put in the picture. So if you were wanting, so here are Marl's here. There they are. Now, in the pattern, she uses 3 contrast colours, but she's actually got 5 blocks of colour there. So obviously, she's repeating shades as she heads down. So here's the beautiful thing: with 5 different blocks, you can. She's obviously done one shade, then another, and then sort of rotated them round. Well, to be honest with you, you could do all 5 shades. So if you like that little ladder swatch that I did and had in the newsletter the other day, there's an opportunity to put that into practice. Or you can do the 3 that she suggested. And the 3 that I really liked together were these 3 here, which when you look at them, you think, oh, okay, Marie, not seeing it, but all right. But bear with me. Bear with me, people. The reason I like these is you've got sort of the green. This is sort of kind of the Kotokipo is the one that pulls these 2 together, right? These 2 are exact polar opposites. But when it comes to colour work, you've got to have polar opposites, people. So if you don't have polar opposites, your colour work can look a little muddy. And that if there's a criticism of the colour work on here, it's not crisp. She did say that when you purchase the pattern, you do get like a chart, so you can play around with some colors to see what things look like. So that's actually a really great idea. And she does strongly recommend doing a swatch. And actually, I fully agree with her, just doing a little swatch to see how the colors transition. I think these 3 colors together look fantastic because you've got enough contrast between them, but there's enough, because of the base yarn, there's enough sameness that move through, and they're quite bold. So the trick then with that is you want these to be the focus. How do you pull them together? Now, this is similar to what I've got on. This is the silver as opposed to the oatmeal. I've just grabbed that. To be honest, the oatmeal would look great as well. So this is a beautiful natural option. If you wanted to do the reverse and have something deeper and darker, which you could do, that is dusky blue. And I think that would also work very, very well. The other one, if you wanted something more natural, which is what I think will be popping in the newsletter, is charcoal, which I didn't grab, unless I've got one sitting here. Nope. And the other colour, now, which we don't have, we've got a few balls in store, only if you've got stuff in stash. But if you have got loganberry in stash, oh, I know. I think loganberry will be amazing if you wanted to do that. You can also play around with any solid DK. So if you've got Cove, I think Cove would work really well with these if you wanted deeper shades, or even if you're playing around with some Perindale. These with black would look amazing. So, don't be afraid to mix and match. These are a standard DK. Perindale actually is another great one to mix with this, spun to the same count, so it'll be really cool. Debbie, is the Marl similar to the spin cycle? No, is a short circuit. Well, yes, no, because the spin cycle is yarns that have been hand spun and plied, and the colours change. So the spin cycle is actually closer to the pulse that I'm going to be showing you, because whereas this has been 3 different plies, different coloured plies have been twisted together and then printed over the top. Whereas the pulse, which is our second option for this, is more like the spin cycle. So that is where each individual ply has been coloured separately, and then they're all twisted together, which gives you, let me just grab the ones that I pulled out, which gives you, oh, and that was the other one. There we go. I knew I pulled out one more. That was the other one that I grabbed, was the flight. I think flight would look really good if you wanted a natural look. Whereas these are the pulses, and the pulse is more like the spin cycle. So depending on how many colours you had in each individual strand, and spin cycle do this, they have some that are really, really random, some that are quite sort of marly. And if you have a look on that picture, there's a couple that are more just mono or bitonal, and others that are more actively tonal. So these are the pulses that I've just pulled out. If you wanted to go for colours, 3 colours that were quite close together, like she's got, you would do something like this, right? So you would get a softer transition between them. Personally, I just think that those are too close together. Mind you, those happily work together, and this is when I would want to start bringing in something a little bit more contrasty. See, I personally think that because they're opposites on the colour wheel. Or you can do something like that if you wanted things a little bit more tonal. The whole trick is just to play around with all the different colours together. But Pulse would work exceptionally well with this combination. And then if you were wanting to keep things tonal, see she's got this beautiful soft monotone through the main colour, well, that we can do. We can do that with our handy dandy Sock Petition edition. So Sock Petition edition in the DK, this one is Taylor. So this is the green. We'll see then if you wanted to keep it all quite tight together from a colour tone perspective, or you are quite happy to let things loose a little in a colour tone perspective. And then if you're wanting to jump around a little bit, there is the Gallow, which is the pink. And you could play around with those tones. And all of these, and I mean, I've only just gone and pulled out a few. I mean, we've got the Flow. Actually, I grabbed Adagio. I should have grabbed the Laser, which is the other lighter blue. Those 3 are all sort of quite tonal, sort of work, but there's enough contrast between them. And you could throw them in with something lighter and cream. And she also mentions in the notes that you can do solid colors. It works really well in solid colors. So if you're wanting to do solids, I mean, the world's your oyster with us, but one of the things I really like the idea is of reversing things out, doing your color work blocks through the center there in Sock Petition edition, and then actually throwing over something solid over the top. So you could do that. Honestly, like what I did in a Nilchik Swan Show in, which was Sock Petition. I had this shade. I didn't have this, but I had the purple. You could do the whole thing in Sock Petition from top to bottom. No worries whatsoever. It would look amazing. I also grabbed Flight, just our standard Flight solids there. Standard Flight solids would look great, but then you throw the standard Flight solids in with some of these pulses, and you can see you can see a picture starting to emerge. So it's about being a little bit fearless with color, having a little play around, seeing what you like and you don't like. The amounts, I did actually pop the amounts. Let me throw all these away. I did pop the amounts in here. So let's, in the because I've got it sitting on another page. So see, with your contrast color, so let's just jump straight to I mean, it's got sizing all the way up to 72-inch finished size, so that's pretty roomy, to be honest. It's really big sizing. So if we, for argument's sake, if we are looking at the biggest size, you're looking at about 12 balls for a main color on a 50-gram ball size, and you're looking at 3 balls for each contrast color, or 2 balls from 2 balls on each contrast color all the way through up until you start heading into the second bracket of sizing. So 2 to 3 balls is what you're playing with here. But the thing is when you're playing with 2 to 3 balls, you may have a couple of hanks of something sitting in stash that you think to yourself, actually, it is time to get rid of something like that. A bit of Noro. If you've got a little bit of Noro, actually, have I got something? Oh, yeah, here, I can show you this. I actually cleaned my little stash chash over there. I know. I'm so proud of myself. But, these are a couple of Noros that I've got there. See, I'd look at both of those. So you could treat those as a single coloured hang, and you think, yeah, actually, I'm going to incorporate those in. How can I incorporate them? Or I've just got to grab these. These are a couple of the one wonderful Virginia that used to work for us, who's Yellowtail Yarns. She'd these were just a play around she'd done for us, and there's a you could play around with something like that and then put on a dark base. So the whole trick with these sorts of things is, having some fun, and not don't don't be too constrained that it has to be too samey. Mix up some textures as well, particularly through the yolked portion. There's nothing stopping you mixing up the textures between those blocks either. So when I say that, you could do something like, and you can add the texture in the colour work in the yolk. So if you've got a couple of skeins of Kalenko, that would look amazing. Kelly & Co through there. In fact, you could do the whole thing in Kelly & Co, to be fair. It's a 20-stitch tension, which is, you will get Kelly & Co. It'll be nice and firm. And you could actually have the texture through the yoke and then do something smoother on the body if you wanted to do that in competition or the like. Play around. Don't be afraid to have a look at some stuff you've got in stash and actually do yourself a little swatch. And in fact, I think she had an image. Let me have a little look here, people. I think there was an image. Yes, there is. So there is this image here, which I thought was a great image. This is someone, and see, they've just gone and done some colour swatching and had a play around with different things and had a look and thought, right, how is this going to look? Spend some time doing this. It's, it really will make a difference to how things look and how you feel about something. They've gone and done this as single swatches, so then as you can see, they've got fringes off the end there. To be brutally honest with you, I would be inclined to actually do a tubular, like a little mini tube. So look at what the pattern is and then just, shrink the number of repeats down and then just knit yourself a little tube and have a look. And then that way, you're not having to cut up any yarn, and then if you need to frog all that back to use it, if you're playing yarn chicken, it won't make any difference. Adele, could you use vintage and sock competition for colour work? Absolutely. Yes, both of those would be fabulous for colour work. Or vintage and hand-dyed merino. Yes, is a short answer to that too. Everything that I've shown you here today will work really, really well for colour work. Even the flight, even though this is machine washable, it's a different trick. It's not using superwash fibre. It's using machine treated fibre. What is the difference, you ask? A big difference, but what it means in the real world is it's not slinky-malinky. So there is still a little bit of grip, which is what you want for the colour work, is a little bit of grip. And the Southlander for colour work, well, I mean, I've done a lot of Southlander colour work because it grips and it holds and it looks fab and it just doesn't bend out of shape. Sockmatician has got that fine and twist to it, as does the vintage. It's a full-fold twist, but it's not too slinky, and so it will. And I did my Nanil Chick Swan show in the Sockmatician in colour work, and it was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And this is nice and blocky like that, so you won't have any issues with that either, I don't think. So that's good, really good. Hi, Maureen. Love the ladder swatch, and that helped you. Yeah, the discussion in colours, great. Yeah, and you decided to get one ball of each at the end of all 5. Yeah, and you know what? You can have those for swatching. At the moment, we've got good stocks of everything, so if something really grabs you, you can get some more. I have put in an order for 5 new colours. I've selected 5, and all the new colours have been specifically designed to match back with solid tones within the Southlander collection, which is great for when it comes to do some more colour work. So that is happening as well. What else have we got happening? So much. I know, so much. And of course, we're in the middle of festival season now. So, we've always got things going on. Matariki next weekend, which is why I thought it would be great to bring this pattern up. Is it next weekend? Following weekend. Oh, I don't know. I thought it was a Monday. Is it a Friday? Matariki's a Friday, people. There you go. So, not this weekend, the following weekend. But it's nice to have something to cast on for a long weekend. All right, I'm going to stop gossiping because I need to get on to the newsletter to get that out for you. And judging by the weather, the way that it is, I'm going to have to do it next Friday. Thank you, Kathy. Yeah. Oh, and if you are in town, do remember that we are open here on Saturdays again. Woohoo, whoop whoop. Yes, so we will be open, even though Matariki is Friday, will be closed that Friday, but open that Saturday. So do feel free to come and see us. Thanks, Kath. Friday 24th. Right. I will see you again Thursday. Fingers crossed with a completed project. Fingers crossed with a completed project. But until then, have a great rest of week. Hopefully things weather-wise aren't too ropey at your place. And hopefully I won't get blown away later this afternoon. But until then, have a great day. Take care. Bye.